So, for indie fans who are starting to watch the Indy 500 this month, explain all the practices like the veteran runs, the rookie and the refresher, why they do the qualifying sims, and like why he saw certain drivers like Takumo Sata in the refresher instead of in the veterans, and like for example with like all the other bits leading to the month of May, like carb day was yeah,
Yeah,
and like bump day as well.
of course. Yeah. So happy May, first and foremost, because it's May 1st. I feel like this really just like sets the tone. It was nice to be at the test last week, and we saw a few of the drivers do their rookie and refreshers, including Takuma Sato. And I did an interview with him, asking him basically, I'm like, "You're a two-time Indianapolis 500 champion. Isn't it ironic that you have to run the refresher?" And he's like, yeah, it is ironic, but I'm very glad that I have to do it because I haven't been in an Indy car since the Indy 500 last year. And you would think someone like him, it's like riding a bike, but there's a lot of things that go into it. So it was really just a refresher course for him to get back in the car, get up to speed. And he was excited about it too, just because it gave him a little extra time in the car. And every lap, I feel like at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is helpful and essential. Um, but yeah, basically, if you Indianapolis 500 or you weren't, I can't remember the exact rule, but it's like if you weren't in an IndyCar full time the previous year, you have to run a rookie and refreshers course. Um, and that's basically a three-part um, situation where you kind of have to get up to speed in an Indy car because they don't just let anyone go out there and run 235 miles an hour around the speedway. So it's an important procedure that is just part of the month of May procedures. And then once May hits, I feel like really everything gets kicked off with the GP on the road course. So it's kind of like the prelude to the Indy 500. But it's also important in itself because it's a points race for the championship. And even though everyone's focused, we'll do the GP, and then we run right into lots of practice, which, like I said, every lap counts at the speedway. So it's almost like a week of practice. And then we get into quals weekend, and then we will go through qualifying. It's like a 2 day process, and then there is bump day, and someone's going to get bumped this year. And since I've been working the 500, bump day, I feel like it's almost more intense than race day itself because you work so hard just to get the opportunity to run the 500, and anything could happen. So you really have to be perfect. And though it's only one person in the past, maybe it's two or three or whatnot, it could be you, and you just don't know. So you got to be perfect. Everyone has to be on it. And then there's kind of a lull. And then carb day, so fun. Big concerts, pit stop competition, turning everything up. It's so fun. I feel like it's just like a party at the track, and it almost like heightens the mood for the weekend. Carb day, big party. Saturday is Legends Day. It's also where the drivers' meeting is held. More informative, lull before the 500. And then Sunday morning, that cannon goes off at 6 in the morning, and it is on, and it's Indy 500 day. So very exciting stuff.
Explain why the drivers all like pick the milks that they have, and like why it's important for the 500 in like general.
Yeah, yeah. So obviously the milk is the tradition. There's so much tradition along with the 500 and even the Indianapolis Motor Speedway itself. The bricks, the milk, everything. And the I think it's the American Dairy Association. They give the drivers a chance to decide what kind of milk they want. And I can't remember all of the options off the top of my head, but I know that you could choose. Yeah, you can basically choose any milk that you want. Even I think someone wrote in once chocolate milk, which would be hilarious. But yeah, the drivers get a chance, and then they get their picture taken with their kind of their card, and hopefully at the end of the Indianapolis 500, they get their choice. And I know it's like it. I've always wondered. I'm like, was the milk is the milk cold? Is it sitting in a cooler? What is it? Apparently, it's like ice cold. So super refreshing after you just won the 500.
If like, or you said about like the Indy 500, like almost like a race day. What does like for you your race day look like other than
Yeah. So this is the first 500 that I will be working for broadcast television. Previously, I've been um, they call it the big screens host at the track. So my day would look different probably than what it would this year. But I mean, we're there 4:30 in the morning. You're trying to beat all the traffic and you're not even beating it then. I mean, you pull into the racetrack at 4:30 in the morning and it's like it would be 2 in the afternoon. There's people everywhere, um, cars everywhere. It's really insane. It feels like time isn't real. And then the cannon goes off. It's kind of a slow roll until the cannon goes off at 6 in the morning, and then it's a welcome race fans. It's Indianapolis 500 race day, and you hit the ground running from there. And it's just interviews and fan interactions and promotions and things like that. This year is going to be a little different because it's going to be a lots of prep and production for the Fox IndyCar on Fox broadcast, which I have never been a part of. A, with Fox Sports, but then B, on the broadcast itself. So I know it's just a massive amount of production leading up to when we're live. And I don't know how long pre-race is this year, but it's probably 2 hours or so leading up to the race. And then once the race starts, I'll be on pit lane, calling the action down there, along with Kevin and Jack, and I believe Jamie is coming back, I think. And I think they're just still adding people to the roster. So super exciting. It's my favorite time of the year.
what is something you've learned from the sport that's helped you outside of Indy?
Yeah, I think motorsports makes you grow up faster in a sense. Um, I feel like you're held accountable at a young age. Like I got into racing when I was 12 or so, and we raced horses before then, and it's different. But when I got into motorsports, I felt like from a very young age, you're held accountable for your actions, and I think that helps later on in life. And I still have a lot to learn and whatnot, but when you're 15 and you did something maybe on the track that instinctually you thought you should have, but maybe you shouldn't have. Maybe you have to go apologize, or you have to deal with what happened out there. And I also feel like from a young age, people just hold you to a higher standard because you're put in a position of like high intensity. So I think that's made me grow up a little bit and maybe just look at things a little differently of an accountability standpoint. I felt like in my 16, 17, 18 years, I had a lot of friends that were doing a lot of crazy things, and I was already looking at it like, man, I can't be doing all this stuff because I have a race the next day, or I got it would look bad on me or something like that. So I thank racing for that.
How do you make obviously reporting feel um unbiased and also try and with the drivers make it not like sensitive and like bring up the controversial topics?
Yeah, I think that if you're going to be a reporter, you truly do have to be unbiased. And sure, there are people that you like talking to, and there's people that maybe give you a more of a harder time and whatnot. But like, you really can't have stake in the game. I feel like, or else you're not going to be reporting to a true honesty or key, even if you're not even trying. But so I think being unbiased is probably the best part of it. You can't really get too close to the topic. I almost feel like if you're not like a race fan, it's almost better because then you're not like polling for someone specifically or anything like that, which you can't do. Basically, that's just your job, which sometimes is the unfortunate part of it because some of the topics that you talk about are very sensitive. And take the 500, for example. Sometimes you're the first person to talk to someone after they didn't make the Indianapolis 500, and you know that they're in such a vulnerable position. You have to respect that, but then at the same time, you are also doing your job. So I think there's just respect that goes both ways, where there's an understanding that you have to ask those questions, but at the same time, it's not easy for sure.
For young girls who see you on like the TV, like how do they want to like get their part like the reporting in like high school, college, university?
So I believe that going to as many events as you possibly can, if you're able, and shaking hands is the epitome of just, you never know when something's going to fall in your direction. I don't think I've gotten a job in the last couple of years that it hasn't been like through a connection or through shaking someone's hand, and a year down the line it's like, oh, hey, what about her? We met here. And you just never know when an opportunity is going to pop up and that someone might see you fit for it. And I think that if you are there, and maybe it doesn't even have to be in person, like I felt like at the very beginning when I was trying to get into IndyCar, I was so annoying to the producers and all that stuff because I was just sending email after email being like, hey, if you need anything, I got it. Like I can help and all this stuff. And I remember like sending an email and being like, oh my gosh, they're gonna hate me because I am just sending them so many emails. But I do think it helps because you're the first person to think of when something comes up. So I would just say like be consistent and persistent, and eventually something, and don't get discouraged, and something will come up eventually.
What has been the best and funniest moment of reporting?
Best moment? Ooh, oh, that's a doozy. I would say the opportunities that Formula E gave me to travel the world last year were very cool. And I wouldn't have been able to see all those places and have those experiences if it wasn't for reporting and if it wasn't for Formula E. And I think that I mean, it was life changing to go see all those places. On the IndyCar side of stuff, I think my first ever race with NBC was at home in St. Louis, and just the feeling of going live for the first time on NBC, knowing that you're on national television and also in my hometown was really cool. And I'll just always remember those feelings because I was so nervous, and I still get super nervous. But yeah, that was awesome.
Is there a IndyCar driver that like you're trying to have a serious interview with, but they're like trying like not purposely making you laugh, but like you're trying not to laugh while on TV?
By the time that we do them and all that stuff, it's pretty down to business. I mean, it just depends on what we're doing. Like sometimes if there's like a rain delay and the mood is a little more lackadaisical, and just kind of, if the interviews aren't as serious as they usually are, then I would say like a David Malukas interview is usually pretty fun, or like a Pato interview is pretty fun. But like I said, it's all situational because sometimes it's very down to business, but sometimes it's, you're filling time and you're just catching up.